All right, module 3, and this is where we put the rubber on the road, baby. Are you ready to go? This is how you take everything that you ever wanted and get what you've always dreamed of. Take your Denver into reality. You ready? I call it a moment of courage. This is so important, and this is fun because it's just how to win. It's just how to win. You know, and it's what I'm known for is moment of courage. When I train people, and I do a lot of one-on-one trainings, I do not train them for how to ace an interview as far as what to dress, their strengths, their weaknesses. Don't give a crap about that. There's other people out there that do it really well. I train people like yourself for 15 seconds of an interview. 15 seconds of an interview. So what is a moment of courage? A moment of courage is simply bringing your heart out of your mouth. What I mean is you're sitting there and you know this is your Denver. And you've gotten advice and that desire, you're sitting there just doing this. But we've been trained as a society to sit there and cage all that. Keep it in and go, yes, sir, and my strengths and my weaknesses. And I'd really like to work here. And I think it would be great. And I would do a really good job for you. Jesus, just stop, right? Because listen, we're asking ourselves, why should we choose you? And honestly, if you're doing that, you're just like every person before you and every person after you. And the reality is this, is as an employer, all we see is vanilla, that person. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. I'd work hard. And what are the hours? And oh my God. And all we see is vanilla. And we are dying for a little piece of chocolate because everyone comes in with their hand out asking, what's in it for me? I need a job. I need vacation. I need to pay rent, I need grocery money, and I sure as hell need out of here at 5 o'clock. If you're that person, you're going to lose. But again, if this is your Denver, and we've gotten through the advice and the desire, this is not how you're really feeling. Inside, if you're there, and this only works if you've done the first 3 steps, okay? Denver advice and have that desire. This only works at this point. If it's just a job for you that you're trying to get by, don't do this. All right, fair enough. But if it is your dream job and this is your chance to get in the hen house, this is your chance. The door is right there. The door is right there. Here's how you do it. You have a moment of courage. And a moment of courage is simply this. It is when in every interview, you might not know it, but you will never forget it now. In every interview, there's always a moment, a pause, a hesitation by the interviewer. Because we're just trying to figure out what to ask you next, or just kind of get our frame of thought right. Because, I've seen people like you coming in wanting the same thing again, saying the same crap again and again and again. And it's at that point when there's that moment, that pause, that hesitation, you've got to ask yourself, what are you willing to do to get what you've always wanted? And this is where a moment of courage comes through. And here's the deal. When this happens, are you ready for this? I'm very proud of this fact. And this is with hundreds of people, maybe thousands at this point, that I have a 100% success rate. Let me say that again. When a moment of courage is invoked in a position where you are really wanting this job, 100% of the time, they get the job. Think about that for a minute. Because we're all asking ourselves, why should I choose you? And a moment of courage is simply, like I say, is bringing a sledgehammer to a glass party. Because what it does is it just crushes everything, because all these people are coming in and they're all wanting the same thing. It's the job, the money, the benefits, and hopefully not as much work as they promised, and I can skate away. And we're just sick of it. But if you're there going, this is where I want to be, it allows your heart, your passion, that drive to come out of your mouth. Let me say that again. A moment of courage is letting your heart come out of your mouth. It is not scripted. It is not this, but it is a lean in moment. It is a moment where you're not sitting there going, yeah, I'd like to work here really hard. Yeah, whatever you need, I'm your guy. No. I actually, and forgive me for this, I'll tell you a testimonial later on, but I had a person call me last week, and I had to train him on the phone. But the analogy I made with him, talking about this moment, because usually, we can train for it. Because a moment of courage is you can be sitting there answering all the questions you want like this, but a moment of courage is when you come in and you're like, excuse me, I need to tell you something. And I told him the only way I could, because I'm a little bit weird, but I was trying to illustrate the point as hard as I could. I said, this is someone called your mom a bitch moment. You don't sit back and go, oh, my mom's a bitch. You're like, oh yeah? You're on it. You are ready to go, and this is your moment. And if you're not willing to take it, that's fine. Someone else will, and you will lose. Period. It just is. And I don't want that for you. You know, the military calls, you know, the second place is the first loser. And that sucks. See, because if this really is your Denver, how about we just take it? Take it. So here's what a moment of courage looks like. And this is different for everybody. Again, it's not scripted because it's just letting your heart blow out of your mouth. And remember, you're laying on the floor. There's no risk of falling. If you don't get this job, there's more opportunities out there. But you've got to take a swing at it because the interviewer is going, is this person any good? I can't really see. Are they any good or are they just telling me the same crap that everyone else tells me? So for me, if I was really there, and this is something I desperately wanted, it goes like this. I'd say, you know, when that pause and that hesitation happens, I would lean in. You know, you lean in and you're like, excuse me, sir or ma'am, I need to say something. And they'll be like, well, okay, what? Say, listen, I need to make this very clear. I don't care if it's nights, weekends. You say jump, I'll say how high. I'm the guy. I'm the guy that wants this more than anyone you're going to meet. I know you're going to interview people after me when I'm done, but nobody wants this job like I do. I don't need a job. I need an opportunity. You give me that opportunity and I will not let you down. And I'm out. Now tell me, do you want to hire that person? You damn straight you do. And if you say you don't, you're lying because everybody wants that person and nobody can find that person. That's why, and here's the other thing though, is you've got to do it. See, you can't be bullshitting here because this is why step 1, 2, and 3 are so important because if this is your Denver, you've vetted it for advice and you've got the desire, you just need to be let go. The fox just needs to get in the hen house and then you'll eat. It just can't be, it's a job. Okay, it doesn't work. If this is truly your Denver, and you have a moment of courage, the doors will open and then you will eat. See, the difference here is that's why the moment of courage works, is because it just wins. People want the person who's willing to do that. Remember, when I said, I will not let you down, you have to remember, it is not about you. It never was about you. It's about me. What can you do for the person hiring you? See, if you focus your efforts on them instead of you, everything will change, all right? Here's an example, 2 examples actually. Years ago, I was talking to a friend of mine that worked for a big power company. And he was in charge of the power lines getting from the power plant to your house, right? And he had a whole crew of people because when things screw up, they got to go fix it. His name was Chris. And I was sitting there one morning, I was having coffee with him and it had 3 of his cohorts. We're all having coffee in his office. And this office was kind of weird. It was kind of like an old school that had offices instead of classrooms or offices. And you couldn't get in the school. You couldn't get in the building. You had to have your little key card to get in. So it was a very secure place, although very low key. So we're sitting there talking, having a cup of coffee. And I said to him, this is as real as it gets. I said, how do you get a job here? Now these are $100,000 jobs, all right? I said, how do you get a job here? And he's like, well, I don't know. He goes, people send in their resumes. The computer does some algorithm. This is verbatim, by the way. He goes, the computer does some algorithm, and I get a pile of resumes on my desk. I go to Panera Bread, get a cup of coffee, and I go through them. I pick out the best 5 that I can find, and I call them in for an interview and hope for the best. That's real world, all right? Because they're resumes. We just got to look at them. Now, keep in mind, a little side note, $100,000 jobs. He has had people, when he has told them that if the power goes out at 3 in the morning, they got to be up, but they got to fix the problem because people like us don't want to wait until they get to work at 8 o'clock to not have power, right? He has literally had people stop the interview and say, it's not for me, I'm sorry. That's how low the bar is, and they walk out. By the way, in over 500 interviews, he's never checked a transcript for a college because all he wants is people who get shit done. All right, so sitting there with he and the 3 others, we're having a cup of coffee, and I said, okay, so, and he told me he gets the resumes, goes to Panera Bread, and interviews and hopes for the best. Man, I've been there. Okay, we all do this. And I said to him, I said, okay, well, what if I wanted to work here so bad, and indirectly it's one of my Denvers, hypothetically, right? And I had that desire, I wanted to be there, and I kind of stalked him to find out where he worked. I couldn't get in the building. I said, but what if I wanted to work here so bad that I pulled into the parking lot, sat on the trunk of my car, waiting for you to walk out for that inevitable lunch, right? I don't care how long it took, 3, 4, 5 hours. What are you willing to do to get what you've always wanted? Ask yourself that. What are you willing to do to get what you've always wanted? And I said to him, I said, what if you walked out, because I can't get in, and I said, hey, excuse me, and I walked up to him and I said, listen, my name's Steve Edwards. I've been waiting out here for 4 hours. I would love an opportunity to work here and not let you down. Have my moment of courage right there with him, right? Because again, what's the downside? He tells me to go screw off. Okay, but what I said to him, I said, what would you do if someone like that walked up to you and just said, I've been waiting out here for 5 hours, just for a chance to talk to you. Here's my resume. I would love a chance to talk to you about working here because this is my dream job. I said, what would you do? I gotta tell you, all 4 of them broke out laughing. And I was confused. And I was like, what's so funny? He said, Steve, he goes, nobody would ever do that. And I said, okay. I said, what if they did? He said, and he never curses, a very religious guy. He said, I would say, to hell with the computer system, to hell with all those resumes, come with me, let's go to my office and let's have a conversation. That's how you lead with you and you win, all right? Here's another example that, if you remember early on in the learnings, we talked about me getting to be with the Navy Blue Angels and ride along with them because it was an unbelievable dream that I made believable and I achieved it. And it was great, but here's a little side note that I don't tell many people because it's not necessarily a moment of courage, but it's illustrative of the desire that I'm talking about and how bad you want it. Listen, my whole life I've wanted this. I've wanted this with my heart and soul. I didn't know how to do it. And I finally got that opportunity. And I can remember where I was talking to the Blue Angels, scheduling the whole thing. And even though I was already in, I just felt like I needed to put an exclamation point on the whole thing. And we were talking about the schedule and this and that. And I said to the guy a couple things. One, 2 things happened. Is I had to fill out a medical form to fly with him. Now I have a few medical things that might have disqualified me, and I lied. I just straight up lied. Because honestly, I would rather risk death than miss this opportunity. That's desire. Maybe not smart desire, but that's desire. I wanted it that bad, all right? And I remember 2 things happened is I said to him, we were talking about where they're gonna be and what their schedule looks like. And I said, excuse me, I gotta tell you something. He's like, okay. I said, and I just made this up. My heart just came out of my mouth. I said, listen, I don't care where you are. You give me 8 hours notice and I will be there. Now, I don't know how to do that. I'll figure that out next, all right? If I gotta walk there, I don't give a damn. I'm gonna get there. In 8 hours, you can get a lot of places, all right? And I was just trying to illustrate, I don't care where you are. I will be there. Whatever it takes for me to be with you and to fly in those F-18s and do that whole thing, I'll be there. His response was amazing. He said, wow. He goes, I don't ever hear that. I was like, really? He's like, no. He goes, Steve, he goes, you'd be surprised. This is the Blue Angels, right? 30 people a year get to ride with them, and they're very special people. And I think at least half of the world would love that chance. And he says, Steve, he goes, you'd be surprised that half the time we can't even get people to send their medical form back in. He goes, we try, we can't get them. He goes, so at least half of the shows, we have nobody to fly because we can't get them to send their forms back in. If that doesn't illustrate where desire is in the world, to fly with the Blue Angels and you still can't get it done, that's where we are. The bar is so much lower than you think. We are all dying for someone that can walk in and eat like that fox in the hen house and kick ass and take names. And that's why the moment of courage wins, is because you've got this Denver that became unbelievable. Now it's turning into believable. You're looking at the door to that building to get in, and you've got the chance to do it right now because you've got to tell them, I'm the guy, I'm the girl, whatever it is, whoever you are, you've got to say, I'm the one. You can't be hesitant. You've got to be like, "Urgh." When I make videos on moment of courage, I inherently I start getting wound up because I'm like, it's go time, man. It is time to hit it hard. Sledgehammer at the glass party, go, go, go. Win at all costs. I won in the hen house. I am that fox. And a lot of times when these people call me, they're like, Steve, it's all because of you. I'm like, no, I showed you the door. If I could get through that door for you, I would, but I can only show you the door and how to get through it. You've got to walk through it. And if you're sitting there vetting this Denver and making sure it's for you and that desire is raging in your veins and you use a moment of courage, you won't lose. You will go take what you deserve. It's just that simple, because here's the reality is, it's back to why choose you. We are all looking for that person that wants to kick ass and take names, and we can't find them because most people want to get out of there at 5 o'clock or Friday and get their 401k and their medical and their paycheck and be gone and give you excuses on why the work didn't get done well. That's what I'm trying to illustrate here. That's why if you really want to achieve the life that you want, you've got to start with your Denver, you've got to get advice, and you've got to have desire to pour all over it, and then instigate that moment of courage and take what you deserve. Because again, if you're a little scared, like, oh, gee, Steve, that seems a little bit out there. Well, that's fine. But don't blame me when you finish second. All right? What I'm asking you for is 15 seconds to change your life. And if you can't give me that, somebody else will. And the whole point of you watching this program is to win, is to get the job you want, the money you need, and the life you deserve, right? So how about we go do it? Because once you get into the building, you will be expected to eat. And here's the kicker. Here's the beautiful part. You might not get in, and I'll illustrate that in the next module with some testimonials of some instances that this has happened to illustrate how the moment of courage truly works. You might not start with the job you want, but you got to remember, now you're in the building. And to use the analogy, the first hen you eat might not be the one you're after, but there's a whole lot more hens in there, because as you're working, maybe in a sub job to the job you really wanted, you're walking by the marketing director's office, the VP's office, the president's office, whoever's office that you'd love to be sometime or be part of, you're in the building. But if you can't get in the building, you never have the opportunity to win. That's where Moment of Courage does that, because the rewards are crazy. Here's what happens. I use the word always and never very carefully because they're very powerful words. Here's what always happens. And I've got so many years of doing this. Here's what always happens. And I want it for you. This is what this whole point of this program is about, is the fox gets in the hen house. The person has the moment of courage, and shockingly, they get the job, all right? But because it was their Denver, they're not scared about 5 o'clock or Fridays or 7 o'clock at night or Saturday morning work, whatever it is. They're happy to do it because they love what they're doing, all right? And they're kicking ass and taking names. And they're just having a blast doing it. Well, guess what? Most of the other people in the organization, and I don't care if it's a high-end organization or a low-end, most of the people there are waiting for 5 o'clock and waiting for Friday. And if you're not one of those people, here's what happens. It always happens. About 6 months later, they call me, and they always say the same words. They always say, Steve, guess what? And I'm like, I know what happened. Because the fox got in the hen house, and they ate, and they always are getting promoted, getting raises, winning trips, whatever it is. And I always say, oh, Mark, you running the place yet? That's our joke, because they're moving up so fast, because while everyone else is doing a piss poor, mediocre job, they're like, this is my freaking Denver, man. I'm kicking ass and taking names, and they're just eating. They're just eating with an insatiable appetite like that fox does. That's why this 3 steps work. And it has to be in that order to have the moment of courage, kick some ass and take some names. And when you're at that point, that's how you win. So listen, that's Moment of Courage, or at least a part of it. We're going to use the next module to show you this in action. And just a tidbit of a few people who have done it. It's just endless. I could do this. I could spend the next week or 2 showing you people like this that win with a moment of courage. But the next module, we'll go through a few people on how it worked for them and what it meant and the result of it. I'll see you there.